All right. Good morning, everyone. Once again, we are in week 5, and this seminar is presentation is part of topic 2 on imperialism and rise of China, and this is session 1. We have group 1, 2, and 3, and our representative from the group will present the answers to the questions on behalf of the group. So for group 1, we have Mr. Shepard Kia. We'll open the discussion or the presentation. We'll start the presentation this morning. Thank you, Shepard.
All right. Can everyone hear me? Good morning, everyone. Okay, for our group, the question was, what are the three core assumptions of realism according to Wolford? Use the case of China to explain. So, first of all, I will going to identify the three core assumption of realism, and then explain them a bit before I go on to use China to explain. So the three core assumptions of realism, according to Wolford, the first one is groupism, the second one is egoism, and the third one is power centrism. Uh, individually, groupism means it's more focused on politics that take place within and between groups. Group solidarity is essential to domestic politics, and conflict and cooperation between politics is the essence of international politics. To survive at anything above a subsistence level, people need the cohesion provided by group solidarity. Yet that very same in-group cohesion generates the potential for conflict with other groups, with other groups. Okay, the second one, egoism. Egoism, as we all know, talking about individual or group who act politically. In the case of international relations, they act politically and are driven principally by narrow self-interest and is rooted in human nature. Okay. In both the sense of that term, social influence or control and resources. Some group and individual always have an outsized influence on politics, and some group and individual are always disproportionately endowed with material wherewithal to get what they want. So, with the three words, the core assumption of realism, we can, with the case of China, we can say that for the first one, in groupism, we know that back then in 1970s, and then China was a poor country. We all know that it's struggling economy back then. But through their chairman, their founding father, or the one that rescued them to where they are now, they form groups, and like politically interested people, they come together, and then they form groups, and in a way where they help each other, and they set foundation for their country, as we can see now. It like they're like developing and competing with like USA and egoism. Know that it's doing it oneself or self-interest. So rising and competing with that, having done technologies, and everything is going to another level, and it's for their own like self-interest. They wanted to like show to the world that they are like they can and they will kind of giving back to power centrism. Power centrism, like China is in order to fund their growing economy, and in a way they they, they manipulate or they control or they yeah they persuade other countries like developing countries in terms of giving them aids and providing them with other loan and them stuff where they get their resources and then they fund their economy again and developing uh, yeah in the world. Yeah, that's all from the group.
All right, thank you, Shepard and Group One. I think there's an issue with the network, so there was disturbance in between. So if you could share what you answer with us on the forum as well in audio form, it will be good or helpful to the others. If you have any questions or comments for Shepard, you can post in the forum in audio or video form. We'll move on to Group Two. Renee, please share your answer to the question with all of us. Thank you.
Can you all hear me now? No? Okay, so for our group, we will be answering the question, what is the difference between offensive and defensive structural realism? And we will also use like Kang to explain. So in order for us to distinguish between these two concepts, we have to first of all understand what each of the terms mean. So looking at the definition of offensive realism, as according to Miyashima, the keywords are need for security, maximization of power, and difficulty in balance of power. And the keywords to defining defensive realism are make certain security, balance of power, and maximizing state security rather than power. So the difference between offensive and defensive realism. Before stating the differences, one must know that both offensive and defensive realism are derived from the theory of realism. Their general assumption is that states are primary actors in the international arena, and that there are no actors that can regulate their conduct, not even international organizations. So offensive and defensive realism also accept that behaviors and actions of a state is driven by self-interest and the need to survive. So Miyashima used 5 concepts to differentiate between offensive and defensive structural realism. One is core arguments, 2, handling anarchy, 3, purpose of military, 4, state survival, and 5, view on mistrust. You can, if you need more explanation on that, you can ask questions on during forum. So now with the difference in mind, we will use China's case to explain these two concepts. So on the offensive realist perspective, China cannot rise peacefully having determined to achieve regional hegemony. So given that the current US policy of engaging China is considered misguided and doomed to failure. So a powerful China will seek to dominate Asia the way United States dominate the Western Hemisphere. On the defensive realist perspective, China is determined to achieve anarchy where security is the highest end. Now with that, China may seek other policies and resolutions to suit its own interests that we call maximization of security rather than power. For instance, China's rise may lead to having to form a balancing coalition with great powers like Russia and India in terms of militaries, which may leave China less secure or even destroy China. That's from our group. Thank you.
Thank you, Rene and Group 2, and we also thank Shepard again for sharing with us your answers to the respective questions that you were assigned. I hope all of you took note of what both of them shared with us, and if you have any questions or comments, please share on the assigned forum in audio or video form. We will now move on to the final presenter representing Group 3, Ms. Iavia.
Okay. Can you guys hear me? Yeah? Okay. Alright. So I'll be presenting for my group 3. Our question is, what is the policy of containment according to Shambao? So firstly, defining the terms policy and containment. According to Google, policy is a course or principle of action adopted or proposed by an organization or individual. And containment is the action or policy preventing the expansion of a hostile country or influence. This is directly in relation to what China is right now. So moving on, as we all know, China today has one of the largest population and largest population a nation can have, and it's also advanced not only technologically but economically and military as well. The mass size and growing power of China and its behavior has already proved as a threat to the United States and other neighboring countries in the Asian region and also the European region. China is for sure already making a mark in the lines of Asian security, international commerce, and the global balance of power. So there is uncertainty in the future of China. And at this rate, analysis can only predict or estimate China's military and economic power only a decade down the line. But beyond that, the capabilities and intentions of this great nation can be very unpredictable. So this alone has given reason and rise to Western and Asian nations to pursue and develop policy options, bringing us to the question of what is policy of containment. The policy of containment was first coined by President Nixon in 1971. The containment policy was in favor of an opening to China. So using strategies and techniques, but not the exact term containment. So Nixon, I quote, Nixon was the original architect of the policy of engaging China. and of trying to integrate the People's Republic peacefully into the international order. End of quote, Shambo, page 209. So Shambo in his article not only coins the term containment policy, but rather uses it interchangeably with the policy of engagement. So the reason being that the policy of containment is flawed and it will not be fully accepted or followed by China or the Chinese community. Even though the policy of engagement may be similar, it still remains the best option available to the international community. So the goal of the policy of containment, or rather the policy of engagement, is aimed at trying to engage China in as many international and regional agreements as possible, so that it's easier to fit China into the international system by making them follow the rules and regulations that are in this agreement, instead of China causing chaos and havoc. So yeah, that's in relation to our question, what is the policy of containment according to Shambo? Thank you.
All right, thank you, Dan Rose and Group 3 for sharing your answer with us. And this brings us to the end of our session for this period. We have our next session, session 2, in roughly, it's 9:04, 9:05. So in 10 minutes time, we will start our next session. That'll be 9:15 if you look at your meeting schedule. So in this 10 minutes, I'll stop here and I'll give you this time to go onto the forum. And if you have any questions for Shepard, for Renee or Diane Rose, you can post within the 10 minutes and start the discussion or get the discussion going while I download this particular video or recording and I'll share with all of you. So we'll start again in 10 minutes time, 9:15. That will be session 2 and we will listen to group 4, 5, 6 and 7. So I'll stop here and I'll see you all again in 10 minutes time. Bye.